Today's show is sponsored by the Universal Costume Company. Today on Designing Hollywood, we have a very special show for a very special film that I've been waiting to see for, the better part of a quarter century. Starting with Gladiator 2, costume designer Janty Yates, who has had a collaborative relationship with Ridley Scott since Gladiator in 2000, for which she won an Academy Award, one of the 8 Oscars garnered by the film. She also received Satellite and AFI awards and was nominated for a BAFTA and Saturn Award. House of Gucci earned her several nominations, including a Critics' Choice and CDG nomination, and was awarded for Best Costume Design by the Hollywood Film Critics Society. For Napoleon, Janty and military designer David Crossman received an incredible number of nominations, including an Academy Award nomination, a BAFTA nomination, a Critics' Choice, and a CGD nomination, and several Film Critics Society nominations. And during her collaboration with Ridley Scott, Janty has worked on such diverse films as Hannibal, American Gangster, Robin Hood, Prometheus, Exodus, Gods and Kings, The Martian, Alien Covenant, All the Money in the World, The Last Duel, Raised by Wolves for HBO, and Napoleon. Gladiator 2 marks their 18th collaboration. She is a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the Costume Designers Guild, and also BAFTA UK, and she votes in all 3 bodies for their annual award nominations. Our next guest is John Mathieson, director of photography for Gladiator 2, and he earned his first Oscar nomination for his work on Ridley Scott's epic Gladiator. As an aside, if you look up John's music video work, he worked with Susie and the Banshees, Prince, Paul McCartney, and U2. That's just something I thought I'd throw in there. He was nominated for an American Society of Cinematographers Outstanding Achievement Award, won a BAFTA, won the AFI Cinematography Prize, and was honored by the Los Angeles Film Critics for his camera work on the film. Mathieson met Ridley Scott through his director's son, Jake, who was at the helm when Mathieson shot the feature Plunkett McLean in 1999. Mathieson later teamed up with Scott Sr. again on Hannibal, the successful sequel to the Oscar-winning Silence of the Lambs, and Matchstick Men. He also collaborated with Tony Scott on the pilot for the HBO series The Hunger. Gladiator 2 marks Matheson's 7th collaboration with Ridley Scott. And David Crossman, the designer of the military costumes in the film, began his career in costume after leaving school to join the distinguished costume company Bermans and Nathans, where he spent 9 years developing his costume knowledge. His first large freelance project was working as the military costume designer on Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, subsequently working with Spielberg on 2 other occasions, War Horse and Lincoln. After 6 years of working consistently on the Star Wars franchise, he returned to one of his favorite subjects, the First World War, co-designing the Sam Mendes film 1917 with Jacqueline Duran. This film was followed by co-designing the Batsuit for Matt Reeves' The Batman. Having previously worked on Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven, Robin Hood, and American Gangster, Crossman returned to design the military costumes for Napoleon, which earned Janty Yates and himself an Oscar nomination. They worked together again on Gladiator 2. So without further ado, let me introduce these esteemed and very creative and very successful members of the Gladiator 2 production staff, John, Janty, and David. It is such a great honor. Look, I'm a fanboy out and I'm about to cry to have you all here to discuss this film. I think my first question with you is, we were talking about how Ridley Scott is probably, when Steven Spielberg made Schindler's List and Jurassic Park in 1 year, big deal. Compared to what Ridley Scott does now, he's got a film in pre, a film in production, and a film in post, all at the same time. What was it like getting the call when they talked about making this movie for years? Nick Cave wrote a script where Maximus came back from the dead, but now you have a script that's finally going to get made. What did the 3 of you feel getting that call, knowing, it's greenlit, we're going, Gladiator 2 is getting made? Janty, what were your thoughts?
Well, we were at the end of Napoleon when the word came out, and it was kind of like, we need to just take a bit of time after Napoleon, which was quite trying, and basically we were able to prep mentally, and also I was able to spread the word to all my people out there from Italy and around. and they all jumped to it. And so there was a huge amount of positivity. And it was very exciting because although I had been there before, it was 24 years ago. And I needed to start really from the beginning with all of the research again and just to din it into the brain box.
John, when you shot the original Gladiator, sword and sandal movies weren't exactly popular at the time. And your lensing brought just a spectacular feel, a realism, a grittiness, the way you use the shutter speeds in the arena fights, unbelievable work. Did you have any trepidation about coming back and trying to duplicate or exceed what you had done, and did you think it was possible?
The word was going around about it, and I was actually working with Nick, doing music videos at the time. He said, "Your man keeps ringing me up." I said, "What do you mean?" It's Russell. He says, we got to go again. I said, "What do you know?" I said, "I don't know anything." And he said, "Well, he rang me again." And he said, "Well, what did you tell him?" I said, "Well, he's dead. He went." And he said, "What?" And so he rings him again and says, "You're dead. You crossed over into the afterlife." So, "Well, we can bring me back with herbs." He says, "No, you're dead. You can't come back." He said, "Well, I'll fight mythical creatures in the afterlife," and hung up. And then Nick said to me, "You've got to stop him ringing me." I said, "I can't stop. I don't know." So then I just forgot about it. I didn't. And then I wasn't party of Napoleon's. I didn't know anything. And I was going, and then Rid said, "Come," I see Rid and the kids and stuff. And he said, "Come into the office." And Neil and him were talking about 3 boats, 3 ships.
Would that be Neil Corbell, the visual effects supervisor?
Yeah.
Not visual effects, special effects.
Yeah,
Pardon me.
Who's been with Rid forever. Like
forever.
That, he's just, I didn't do anything. And they were talking about the ship battle on the edge of the Sahara, and I just thought, I'm in the wrong room. They must be talking about some commercial. So I sort of looked on the door, and crept in the back, and he had some of his rosé open. So I sat there, and he just looked up at me and said, "Are you in?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, what else am I going to do? Ships in the desert, and that was about it. I'm afraid. I mean, there was the hubbub with Nia. I was doing videos with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, and then the Russell thing, and that then didn't hear anything. And it's a film that you don't is it sacred territory? Should you go again? Should you maybe not go again? Because it just became this film. One of those. It's so proud to be part of it. But it became a kind of a classic, and I think probably there have been a few attempts, and Ridley probably didn't go until it was right. I didn't think this film is very different in its sensibilities, but it had to be right in the script before anyway. So that's probably why it took so long. But I mean, with these 2 guys talking about ships fighting in the middle of the sand, and I just thought, well, yeah, it's clearly off to a bad start. I'll go outside and wait.
David, costume design and military costumes have been a passion of yours, and you're a veteran of all the Star Wars movies. You got to work in World War I in 1917, which amazing film. And if anyone hasn't seen 1917, I would suggest seeing it on the best home theater system, or if you can see it in a theater, do it. But coming back on this, the sheer size of it, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but by the end of the film, I know there's digital assist, but my God, man, the armor, and then all the different, I don't even know how to begin on a project like this. Now, you, Janty and John were veterans of the first Gladiator. You did not work on the first Gladiator, but you'd now work with Ridley Scott. You knew how he worked. What were your thoughts when you started to realize the scope and scale of this project? Was it daunting? And what was the most daunting thing?
It was, the first Gladiator, I was working on something else, because I remember bumping into Janty in reception at one of the costume houses. It was many years ago. And everyone I knew worked on Gladiator. So it's all you hear about over the years. Loads of people always say that I did Gladiator. I'm always like, I didn't do Gladiator. And so yes, it was daunting because the industry was that year the industry was so busy and nobody had space to make armor, in mass quantities, and we had to make all of it because of the requirements and the look of it, and so we ended up making a big chunk in New Zealand at Weta Workshop. We made more in Budapest. We made some in the UK. So it was this big kind of all going on around the world, just trying to get it made in time to get it to Morocco. And we were trying to make thousands of sets of things for various Roman and Numidian stuff. And so yes, it's daunting. And at the same time in London, we're doing some of the principal armours for Paul and Pedro. That was our kind of main thing to do, with the actors in London. But yes, it's daunting. But I actually really, the Roman Empire, it's a great subject. It's a brilliant thing to do, to be able to do. And it's nice to try and put your kind of mark on it somehow, just try and give it your own kind of, whatever that is. But, yeah, so it was exciting, but it was just difficult because everything was so remote, and when you're making armor and there's no time to see the original samples because they're thousands of miles away. It's all that kind of thing. So it's all these complications.
Well, what I would ask the three of you, the colors in this film, especially like what we were talking earlier about Denzel Washington's costumes, you really had to differentiate the different legions or the Roman troops. And John, the color palette of this, it seemed to me that the first film had a lot of bronzes and golds, but there was a lot more color in this movie. Even from the very beginning, the Battle of Germania in the original Gladiator was almost monotone, that battle in the mud and the trees. But in this, you've got these beautiful effect sequences of the ships approaching a walled city. How did the three of you collaborate on the color palette of the film? Was this something that you got together discussing, and was there a conscious effort to bring more color into the movie? Or change the palette from the first Gladiator?
No. I mean, there wasn't a big discussion. I mean, I think I just went along because, by the time I came in, it's things are in hand. Janty's on board, Dave's on board, Neil's been doing things. I went to the wrong room, and are you in? Okay. But I don't have that. I don't have to prepare so many things. I mean, we looked at, there's the favourite things we go back to, the painters, Jerome, Rossetti, Pre-Raphaelites, Milas, Salma Tadema, then the more chiaroscuro stuff, Caravaggio, Joseph Wright Darby, Georges Latour. So those are the colours. They were there in the first one. The first one is colourful, but this one is gaudy, full on. It is, you can feel Rome is about to fall. I mean, it's vulgar. It's Vegas. It's
right.
It's full on kind of camp madness for me. I don't know. And these two are going to pull faces at me, but the art direction. Yeah, the art direction, the costumes. I mean, it was like going. There's a museum not far from me, and I took my daughter to it the other day. It's called the Wallace Collection, which I know some wealthy, collector this, and it's peacock green wallpapers with gaudy paintings from the grand tourers, the grand tourers who went out from the Byron guys sitting around with some hats on, sitting around crashed out and under some lean-to stripy blanket thing with the sun setting behind them. There's some slave girl carrying water or something. So those paintings come up again and again and again. What Ridley likes in terms of his own painting, the era he was born in, he likes the 60s stuff. He's a modern star. He likes Hockney. I don't like Hockney. He likes Freud. I like Bacon. But the painters we go back to, and also Napoleon as well, some of the, could see a lot of paintings in that. Jerome, as a name comes up a lot. But I was just, for me on my end, I was just fed up with looking at I hurt my foot and I had to sit in front of the TV for 3 days. There's nothing on Netflix. My daughter put me up. So here's the remote. Get your foot up. If you stand on your foot, it's bad for your foot. You got to watch TV 3 days. There's nothing on Netflix, but it all looks the same. It's flat. It's boring. It's colorless. I want to do color, sharpness, gaudiness. Shot the cameras at deep stops, which brings up that stuff. Contrast. A lot of contrast.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, there's a contrast.
We'll get him back. Well, Janty...
Dave and I we have a meeting with the production designer fairly early on, more for interiors, that we don't have a red dress against a red background. And usually Johnny's around for that meeting, but I don't think you were. I'm just talking, you disappeared, Johnny, but okay. Basically, I was just explaining that we usually have a meeting with Arthur just to discuss colour palette. And he comes and sees the fabrics. In fact, the sound engineer always comes and sees the fabrics.
Yeah.
Always, since we've been working with them, Stefan. Quite extraordinary. He feels them. He throws them around a bit, because it's normally always silk with embroidery, complains, then goes away again.
Well, David...
Yeah. Says something in French and leaves, yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I was going to ask you, let's just say that this movie, without saying what happens, it ends on a note where the audience will want to be on their feet. As I said, they practically were when I saw the film. The color, when you're dealing with armor, and you have to really, from a story standpoint, differentiate who is with whom, what allegiances are there. I mean, what I really liked was how Pedro Pascal, his character, Marcus Acacius, his armor was redolent of Maximus's in the first film. And I liked that because it seemed to me that he was, as I was saying to Janty before we started, he basically was what Maximus would have become in the first film if Maximus made it back to Rome and worked with Marcus Aurelius to build Rome back. He was that version of the character. So it was an interesting, cool way to play that off. But was it intentional to sort of make him feel like part of Maximus's Felix legions?
No, not at all. We were trying to straddle between kind of metallic looking armor and leather looking armor. So there's always the argument about whether cuirasses are leather or metal and that kind of thing in Roman history. And so we were going for a kind of deep bronze, almost black kind of color that occasionally it'll hopefully catch the light and you'll see some of the color in it. And a lot of the time it will look black and dark. Ridley likes dark armor, and I know when Paul starts in his pale armor, Ridley wanted to make that kind of darker at the beginning, and then we kind of, we all talked about it and then decided that he'd remain pale and then progress towards his kind of darker armor later in the film. Whereas Pedro, I think, is just a very cool color. I think that's it. There was no kind of Maximus talk with.
Yeah, there's more color in that. He looked great. I mean, the colors that were in those, and then as I said, the two different. Let's just say the difference between the Praetorian Guard and that was really cool what you guys did.
Praetorians are in the kind of spirit of the first film, so they're remakes. They're a black armor with gold and purples and that kind of thing. So you've got a nice difference. You have to have that difference between them and the kind of standard Roman soldiers, the legions, and so that was the kind of, the first Gladiator kind of paved the way for those Praetorians to look like that. And
but the Praetorians were much more beautiful this time round.
Yeah, but whether you that's very
nicer legs.
Okay, but it's like but that was you knew that the Praetorian Guard had to kind of more or less be a similar kind of to the first film. You were trying to, but you we give it our own thing, and obviously we added like the Emperor's head on the breastplate, and we've got a different helmet and all that kind of thing. But colour-wise, and then the pewter at the beginning, that was just get on with it. We made a lot more chainmail for Roman soldiers. We made a process where they're all wearing kind of moulded chainmail.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that amount of chainmail for the beginning of shooting. It takes too long. So we kind of mixed them. It's been a lot of leather. It's So and you know that we know from previous experience with Ridley what he's going to like and what he's not going to like. So you feel pretty safe in what you're doing, and then you show Ridley those things. And then hopefully.
Well, I love, John, how you said this is Vegas. I mean, it's Satyricon. It's Rome is about to fall, and I don't think anybody embodies that idea more than Denzel Washington's character. And Macrinus, as I was saying to Janty, his outfits alone, his bling, his outfits, the way you were shooting him, I don't know if you had wind machines blowing those robes to get the perfect. I mean, it was incredible watching him go across the screen. And I think that, as a breakout character, what he did, very different than Oliver Reed in the first film. I just, Janty, how did you come up with all that? What was you talked about John paintings, but those robes and the way they moved and the way you shot him, what was it like developing that character from what it was going to look like? It's one thing to be internalizing as an actor, but the exterior that you both brought to him, man, you can't take your eyes off any of the scenes that he's in.
I think that has a lot to do with Denzel, to be honest. He's quite magical in his command of the screen. Johnny, were you using wind machines? I wasn't aware of it, but
well, I mean, no. I mean, but he did. I mean, it was like a Balenciaga bag dress, that thing, because it would inflate. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The ones he did Balenciaga back in the 60s, he just kind of he'd inflate at times, but he'd always. I mean, he's totally unfamiliar with wearing robes. He just wears, normal gear.
Yeah, I've never seen him
carry that stuff. And it's good if you've been in the RSC. You know how to. I mean, look at the way Derek Jacobi puts on a toga. He looks looks like a sculpture, and you can see all the other senators going, "Oh, hang on, aren't you?" Because he just like he's Claudius. So I think Denzel was more Arabic, Indian fabrics and things, but that there was that balloony thing that he wore. But he always sort of gathered it up in a way. With his performance, he was talking to Lucius and always doing something with his hands and adjusting, and just showing off his sort of wealth and his opulence. This is a man who's been a slave, and he's over the top. He's like a sort of
well, like you said, I mean,
it's like one of those guys going to boxing and watching Muhammad Ali in the 70s. The peacocks were the men, not the women. No, look at me, I'm fabulous.
Well, how did those?
He enjoyed all that, Janty, didn't he? Enjoyed all that fabric.
Yeah, like he never worn it. How do you dress? Like, where was the inspiration for those colors and those fabrics, and what was it like first working with him? Like, did you bring those outfits to him at first and show him? Were there drawings? Did he see things? And what was it like at those first fittings?
Well, we only had 2 fittings with him. And the first fitting was great because he put everything on and he did like a lot of it. And it was all very much in its sort of patched together phase. And then the second time we had a fitting with him, he didn't want to try anything on. But I had something like, 22 outfits. And we spent 5 hours going through the script, going through his part of the script, and me suggesting things, and we laid them down on the ground and said, well, that's outfit number 7 and outfit number 8, etc. And then he was very keen on a certain jeweler in LA, but in actual fact, because we had to get 4 of everything, because he has his stunt double and, with various reasons for repeats, I just did the jewelry as much. In fact, I really wanted him to wear a turban, and I'm kind of glad he didn't, because I think it would have made, and I think Ridley was very glad he didn't, because it would have made him more jokey, maybe. And I was delighted because I put out 100 different earrings, but he wore the same earrings all the way through, which was delightful, and he wore them happily, which was great. And he happily, because I said, choose your rings, I want you to be happy with your rings. This was out of fitting. And he chose 10. So we just repeated the 10, you know.
But he's always doing something with his hands, though, isn't he? He's always, you know, there's always some conducting and, you know.
Yeah, he really did.
He'd been literally like Derek Jacobi. He'd been in classical theatre all his life, instead of in tracksuit bottoms and tracky top, you know, or t-shirt.
Yeah,
which is his normal garb. It was wonderful what he did with it.
Yeah, he's. I saw him on Graham Norton. He did Othello when he was in his 20s. And now he's going back and doing it again. As he said, he'll be 70 when he does Othello again. So he does have a classical theater background.
He does, and he's looking forward to Othello. But, you know, he did an awful lot of contemporary work in between.
Yes.
Like 50 years worth.
No, absolutely. But it was incredible. Now, David, the different armors you've got, there's some incredible battle sequences in this movie, and obviously in the arena as well. And in the arena, it's very theatrical. I mean, and it was very there's things that happen in this arena that the audience laughed out loud at in delight. One of them involves certain sea creatures. There's a great shot looking down from above into the arena that's been flooded with water when you first realize what's actually in the water, and people were clapping in my screening. But coming up with obviously the combatants in the arena is a whole different thing. It's a whole different level in terms of people still remember the female gladiator, or the female gladiator that comes out in the arena in the first film with the bows and the arrows firing on the back of the chariot. I mean, who can forget that? Were there things in the arena that you were able to build or make that particularly delighted you that people should look out for?
Yes, I love our kind of Spartan, our Greeks on the other boat with their black and white plumes and their kind of, because they've got this kind of linen Greek armor which we made with these big shoulder pieces. And I'm not sure if I suppose you do see enough of them, but it's very chaotic when you see them. But they're kind of nice to do, these kind of classic Greek warriors. Lycio on the rhino was quite a nice one.
Amazing.
Trying to make him work with the whole workings of the rhino and what he had to do, you know, with that, and you know all the things he has to do on the mechanical rhino and on the. So he was another. I mean, he's got a great helmet. I love his helmet with his. So hopefully you pick up some of that detail. There was, what was the other one?
Oh, I think you do. I mean, I think you know John's work is. The detail, how crisp and clean this movie looks. It's beautiful. You can see everything. I mean, I was
born by the woman in Gladiator. Ridley wanted something similar for Arashat, Lucius's wife at the beginning of the film.
Right.
So that armor is kind of based on. It's kind of moved on. You know, slightly from that, and but that was the kind of basis of the female warriors at Numidia at the beginning.
That was great.
You see mostly Arashat, but that's what that's based on.
John, there was a lot of, you know, in the Battle of, for instance, in the Battle of Germania, there's a lot of, you know, you were separated. You didn't really see a lot of close quarter combat in this film, except in the arena. But in this film, from the very beginning, I mean, it's mayhem. The battle in the beginning, the battles in the arenas with again boats. You had boats in the desert, boats in the arena, boats in the ocean. What was it like mounting these? Like how when you're shooting a battle sequence like this, how many cameras are you using in something like that? Are you using a lot? I mean, it looked so. Just the scale of this film is huge.
No, I don't think you're going to see many films like this again.
No,
unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't agree at the beginning. Germania, you tell Russell Strawberry, it's a very intimate, visceral story of someone, it's grubby, there's this character,
yes,
and he doesn't really want to be there, and what's he doing there, and why is he having to face off against these people, and when he gets unhorsed and blah, 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 and then it's just lowest common denominator behavior, squabbling in the mud, fighting, gouging, and nasty. I mean, it was shot around him. It looks big at the beginning, but the expensive stuff is when people start fighting.
Right.
That's when he real stunts. But if you actually do it small, we couldn't really afford to do the fight, and that's why. So anyway, it's Russell's story anyway. So Maximus' story.
Yeah.
And it's grubby, it's dirty, and David talking about the arena fights. Those guys in there, they're the Marines and they're number ones. They're smart, and there's a lot. That was all mud and rabbit fur and yuck and trying to stay warm. But this is showman time. This is this is it's the boxers coming in with their ridiculous dressing gowns and their fancy shorts, and it's Vegas, as I say, it's gaudy, it's full on, and Rome's totally decadent, and it's all so there's a lot of detail, and you wanted to see it, so we shot it hard, we shot it crisp, a lot of contrast. To say, not many contrasty films, a lot of the more light you put on something, the more color kicks back at you. It's a simple it's not difficult to understand that. You don't want to put too much grud and much in, even though my daughter said it's a mucky film. I think it's a very colourful, beautiful looking film. I think it's great to see colour. I think the centerpiece is that are we allowed to say this, the battle in the Colosseum with the boats?
It's in the trailer.
Well, yeah, okay, so it's not much to do with me. I mean, these guys have got to go up, really early and get all those people ready. I sort of turn up the cameras, and we just watch the show. I mean, it's important to do nice things with the cameras, but to make that as dynamic as possible. But we are there to record that spectacle, and these are real spectacles. I mean, people come and they laugh and they shout, and it really happens. The people are there to watch the show. It's hilarious. Kind of interesting to see it because it was shot dry then wet. So, and then they put it together, and it looks great. It's a real success for Rid and the visual effects.
What did you shoot the film on? What formats were you using? Did you shoot spherical?
It was a large format. There was spherical, large format Ariflexes. I mean, nothing that spectacular, really. I mean, they're not. I mean, I went to Panavision because we needed lots of cameras. So,
I would imagine.
I said, what do you got lots of? And they said, we got lots of these. I said, right, that's what it's going to be. And everyone talks about the fancy new this and that. So, oh, goodness, About 2 people in the world make silicon, right? The rest of it's rubbish. So, so they're good cameras, they're reliable cameras. I wanted a system that everyone could I've got one of those, get one. You don't want to run around if you've got one specific camera that has a specific thing on it. You don't want to waste time running. Everyone's got to have something that's compatible. Something breaks, pick up this one, pick up that one. This fits on that fits on this. So that was really you've got to be practical. These people are out there. It's very hot. It takes a long time to get them ready in the morning, and they're going to do stuff. They're going to burn stuff. And people are going to throw themselves off boats, not into the water, and so you don't want them doing that too many times. Simple as that, really. Sorry to take all the spice out of it. Of course, it's studied, and you try and do the best you can. But I think it's more important to get the energy and the feeling of things,
sure,
rather than to fiddle around with this lens or that lens or this thing. We don't have time for that.
Right.
Not that you shouldn't respect that and everything, but I just think you've got to be faster, Rid. You've got to have, fast solutions. and you've got to drop something and it doesn't work. But I mean, I think something like that, you really had to be really on it, because it was right at the end, just before the strike happened. We had to get as much as we could get done that week. It was unbearably hot. And yeah, you really have to pay attention to the ADs and what's going to happen and what's going to happen next and how long the day is. And Ridley's a general, and he's barking out the orders, and you do what you're told. But it's good. I mean, it that doesn't really sound like the right. When you look at that, it doesn't sound. But that is how it was made. It's made with speed and energy, and yeah, there are no lulls in the day.
Right.
And then people prefer that, and also, you've got people out there sitting watching it. They don't want to wait for 10 hours for something. They're not watching the Super Bowl.
You could have sold tickets.
Yeah, they're not watching cricket. They're watching a fast game of soccer. They want something. They want, So, many cameras, but Ridley used to do TV. I've shot a lot of rock and roll. Big concerts where you have a lot of cameras. I'm used to having lots of people.
Yeah.
And they don't always see what you see, because and it's no good me operating a camera, because you'll go into your own zone. You have to see what they're all doing. You have to say to some of the guys, look, don't worry, it will come to you. Don't try and do everything. Just when it is on you, just be ready for that moment. And that's really what the cameras are going. Well, all the cameras are shooting at once. There's a cinema, only one picture up on the frame at one time.
Sure.
So he sits there in his command mission control with his really very big monitors, 6 large ones, a holo down the bottom, and you can see him hitting. You can see his mind working, what shots he's hitting. It's not, he doesn't want everything from everywhere. He wants specific things at moments. Someone turns into something, the A camera, the B camera, the C camera, all this marvelous stuff. Then everyone turns around.
Right.
So those cameras are no good anymore. And then these cameras are on, but then those cameras can run into shot, because it doesn't matter, because they're not on. But you've got to be able to walk into shot confidently, knowing full well, when he turns around, that camera's dead, you'll be on again. So it doesn't matter if you walk through their shot. So it's a choreography of movement. Not everyone's standing back on the edges.
Right.
You've got to get in sometimes, and but also just keeping it going, keeping the energy going, not having to stop for inserts. If you stop for an insert of something, a detail, and everyone stop, and it can take you half a day to get that right.
Right.
I mean, how many horses? Well, you want 50. Well, you got 6. Well, on the day you had 50 horses, and if you can get a camera and then do it, then it's gone and through, and it's in the box, and it's going through to the dailies that night.
Yep.
So that's more efficient. This is. I mean, to actually watch this film being made was, people would walk on the set and their mouths would drop. They go, oh my God. People who've made films for years would go, oh. So when it happens, be ready.
Yeah. Well, Janty and David, obviously everybody has to be wearing something in these massive battles, and the plumage of I mean, gladiators are the slave. Do they call the people on the Roman side, are they also called gladiators, or are they just soldiers? Is it only this armies of slaves that are turned into gladiators? I mean, is there differentiation?
Yeah, that's it.
Gladiators,
That's it.
either slaves or their other men who have become gladiators, or
Prisoners.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I was going to say the two opposing sides. I mean, you guys did a phenomenal job. I mean, watching these arena sequences is delicious from a costume point of view. I mean, I remember the first movie, Maximus was like, whatever comes out that door, we stay together. And it's every time the arena door opened in this movie, it's like, ooh, what's going to come out this time? and that's one of the things that made watching this movie so delightful. How do you guys begin, like when you're creating these larger than life characters, when you read some dude's on a rhinoceros, walks out standing on a rhinoceros. How do you begin designing either that armor, that costume? Do you go back to those paintings that originally inspired the first film? How does that begin? And how much leeway do you have creating these characters?
You you have leeway as long as Ridley likes it. I mean, there has to be an element of showmanship in it, I suppose. And Glyceo, Ridley particularly liked this one piece of artwork that he had, so we kind of based it on that. Because we had another idea for him beforehand, and then we switched over to this one, and with success. And so no, there is leeway with everything else. There was a lot of leeway too. I mean, it's such a huge, as to what John was saying about it's just this huge operation of taking care of all this stuff on set as well. And basically, everyone listens to Ridley on the radio on Channel 1, and that's his channel. And you kind of learn more of what's going on everywhere just by listening to Ridley on Channel 1. Right. You can follow what's going on and what's going to happen. It's the kind of best information, and then you kind of set the people all over the place to try and maintain and follow the cameras and just keep with it. It's the same kind of thing. We're all working at that kind of pace with a big team of people doing it.
Yeah, it was incredible. Now, Janty, how did you deal with this? I mean, was it more of David's purview to deal with the art? But there's people in the arenas. People are dressed up in their fineries. You've got two young emperors, crazy Caligula-like emperors this time.
Well, Ridley called them Johnny Rottens.
It was certainly rotten.
Yeah.
He really wanted them, to have missing teeth, red hair, white faces. It was his insistence from the get-go that they looked really like punk heroes, I guess. But no, it was quite a break, this movie, because we were getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning on the other one, sometimes we were dressing 3,000. So thank goodness for AI on this one. We were dressing only sometimes 600, 700 maximum. How many were you dressing, Dave? Probably about the same, or a few more?
Yeah, some days we'd hit 500. It would always be around 250, 300 in the arena. In Morocco, it was higher numbers.
Yes.
The arena was a kind of constant level with some higher days, some bigger days when you had the Roman legions back in. But with the civilians as well, yes, it was about 1,000 people a day. So it never quite hit the same numbers as the original Gladiator.
Well, no, it certainly never did, really. But from a military point of view, it might have, in actual fact. But certainly from a civilian point of view, it was quite a break. We were able to sleep through till 4.
Feeling very early. Yeah.
Again, I mean, the characters they're indelible in this when they walk on the screen. And I'd be remiss if I don't mention Connie Nielsen's astonishing robes. Like you said, she's very tall, and I mean, my God, she could have been a goddess walking off the top of Mount Olympus. She looked just incredible, but different than she did in the. I really like how the characters that were returning, other than Cracus and the Roman Senate, you made the characters look different. Like Connie Nielsen looked more, it's 16 years had passed according to the movie itself, and yet, I mean, like you said, she didn't look like she aged a day, and the clothing you gave her was, she was now a married woman, and she was now a truly a citizen of Rome. Not that she wasn't Marcus Aurelius' daughter already, but still, she looked amazing. And what was the approach you took in her costuming?
Well, ironically, my cutter and I were very keen on minimalism and haute couture. So our first fitting was we made something like 8 to 10 outfits. Very simple, but, very bias cut with hoods and, just draping. And neither Ridley or Connie liked it very much. So we went back to the draping, and the draping off the headdress, and the draping off the shoulder, and the draping off the waist. And, she would have probably 5 or 6 different drapes going on over her draped dress and her draped cloak. So it was just adding more. I think that was the answer to Macrinus to the emperors to Connie, more is more.
Well, you guys certainly accomplished that. It truly is a spectacle like you haven't seen in a long time. What I also really liked about the films was this film is the first film is very much on Maximus. It's his story, but this has a number of different stories going on, and you're following. I mean, Pedro Pascal is his own character. Connie has her own thing going on. Denzel Washington as Macrinus has his thing going on, and of course you've got Paul Mescal's Lucius, and it really felt more epic, I think. Is not that Gladiator wasn't epic, but at its core, it was really the story of one man, where this is really the story of Rome itself, as embodied by the different characters. And
well, especially Macrinus and the emperors, that develops and really explodes.
I mean, was there a different approach in terms of because of the different storylines? Were there things that you were doing to accentuate that from a costume design point, and then also was the way the scenes were being shot as you jumped around to the different characters? Were you taking a different approach, say, to lighting, John, and or was it just not like that? Am I making more of it than it is?
Well, if I could just interject, we did a certain arc with Macrinus and with Lucilla and a little bit with the emperors, and that was it, really. And it was a gentle arc. John?
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really. I mean, I don't think we really did. I mean, on the camera side, what those guys are doing and visual effects doing, but I don't think the camera really did anything that was, I mean, I like the word color arc. I didn't really do anything that was different to the first one. Technology's changed, this changed, that. So the actual film language, I think, is a bit faster now, but it's remained the same. I like to introduce characters and see them for the first time and all that stuff. The first time you meet someone, the first time you do that, I think people should always make a Hollywood entrance, if you will. So it's good to introduce the emperors and see them sort of slip and slide and get more and more sort of syphilis and nasty things coming up. But also, I mean, you go from it's decadence. I mean, it's just. You go from this sort of hot, dry town by the sea where things are bronze and dull and leather, and we talked about Arishat and what she's wearing, to Rome, which has got full colour and cooler interior rooms. They feel they're nice to be in. There's nice breeze in there. They've brought ice down from the Alps and they're having ice drinks, and even though it's hot outside, it's brilliant and vibrant, and there's colours and there's fresh grapes with dew on them, and there's wine and there's glasses rather than sort of stone mugs, and so that is a big colour art, but that's not really me. That's what's been put in front of me by Janty, by the art director. So, but I mean, I have to say, well, I don't want to put dust and smoke over everything and make it all dull. I don't want it looking like the Netflix films I was watching downstairs when I had my foot in the air for 3 days. I wanted it to be, colourful and sharp, and so your eye could go everywhere. Look at all these, look at these details, these fabrics. I mean, I love them, and you go back again to sort of those paintings that we all like, but they moved away from the darker, obscure stuff to more Everett Milas and stuff, which are brighter, front lit, crisp. But with contrast, but not these levels of grey and black and mist, and so there is a colour up, but just by moving the camera from Morocco even to Malta, which is a bit more clearer and clear, and that dusty, the heat there and the buzz. It's not a Lawrence of Arabia beautiful desert. It's hot and white and burnt out, and dogs are sleeping under the trucks, and the Moroccans are looking at you thinking, what are you doing out there? Sort of mad dog and Englishman. And it was, but that dried out look, it's, the sun was hot. We were there kind of wrong time of year, because the first Gladiator, it's, we were there in February, or end of February, and the sun's low and there's more colour in the sky. This was just hot and hazy and awful. And then, Rome was opulent and cooler and shadowed and covered in canvases, and people under the drapes in the Valerium, and then in the royal box, with the light bouncing off the floor, flattering. It was bloody hot, but I tried to make it look a more pleasant place to be.
Sure. Not
very nice if you're like dealing with a pissed off rhino, but if you're watching, quite nice. Do you want some more grapes? Yeah. You want a glass of chilled Frascati? Love one. Yeah, go and get me some. Olives, love some. So that feeling of, but also just it's all going to shit. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah.
It's all going to really quickly. It's a shame this film didn't come out a bit earlier. Senate's.
Yeah, well, look, it was definitely, when I saw it, it was before the election, and there's definitely a lot that this movie is saying that isn't necessarily at the forefront of the which is fascinating. I think it makes it even more redolent now. But it was terrific. Listen, I know that this is the fastest hour interview we've ever done on the show. I can't believe that we've been talking for an hour. But I want to thank you all for being here. Of course, we have John Mathieson, the great cinematographer, who shot the original Gladiator, which is amazing. Janty Yates, who was also on the original Gladiator with us. And, of course, we have David Crossman, who did all of the armor and who's made the armor for all of you nerds out there like we all are. Go watch Solo, go watch Rogue One, and go watch the 3 Star Wars sequels, and you can see more of his work and watch 1917. I want to thank all of you for being here all together on this very special episode of Designing Hollywood, and everybody should go see Gladiator 2 because it kicks ass, and it's really, as I said, I was dubious as a Gladiator fanboy that I am. I walked in and I said, "How dare you?" But I dare say, as another Paramount movie proved, if I were to equate this is the Top Gun Maverick of the Gladiator franchise going back to, and hopefully it will be just as successful as Top Gun Maverick was, because my God, I don't think I've seen a sequel. I mean, Paramount's 2 for 2. Legacy sequels, you think nobody should ever make a sequel to them? I didn't think Top Gun would work, and I didn't think a Gladiator sequel would work, but those people at Paramount, they know what's up. And everybody should go see this movie because it delivers the goods. And I only wish, my only complaint was I couldn't go into a theater and watch it again when it was over. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for being on the Designing Hollywood podcast, and thank you, Paramount Pictures, for making this possible and for investing in this movie and making it happen, and Ridley Scott and the entire cast and crew, because, hey, we need surprising movies that are truly spectacular and epic, and this is why people should go to the movie theaters. Gladiator 2 opens on the 22nd of November.
Here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all for being here. A special thank you to founder and executive producer Martika Ibarra, co-founder, costume designer, the legendary Marilyn Vance, and of course, John Campea from the John Campea Show. Thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in to the audio version wherever you listen to podcasts. I am, of course, your host, Robert Meyer Burnett, and you can find me on Instagram at rmburnett, or find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or on YouTube at PostGeekSingularity. Thanks very much. Like, subscribe, and give us your comments. What would you like to see on the channel? Right down below. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Designing Hollywood.
I mean, it's not the film I expected it to be. I don't know what I was expecting. You know, I mean, but how do you follow this up? As you say, you don't want to imitate yourself.
Did you ever, John? Did you ever read Nick Cave's draft of the Gladiator 2 script that he wrote?
No. I was just touring with him at the time, and he kept getting these calls in the middle of the night. and he kept saying, "Stop telling him to ring me." And then he kind of like, they said, "Well, I can find mythical creatures in the afterlife." I said, "No." And that's where he kind of hung up on him. I think Russell gave up, and I don't know. I don't know, because he did this film, The Proposition. Do you remember?
Yeah, I love The Proposition.
And which I was going to shoot with Russell, wasn't it, and Guy Pearce, and Nick wrote it, and it was great. And I think it was that time, like, we're Australian, we got to show them. Let's get together and. But the thing was, they all went. You lost. All our heroes died, apart from who's there. So I don't know how you do that.
Right.
Anyway.
No,
they came up with an answer.
It worked. It really, it really was clever the way things mirrored the first movie and were reversed, were sort of inverted. And one other thing, Janty, I wanted to ask you, the Maximus's armor that's on the wall. I didn't want to bring it up because it's kind of a spoiler if people are fans of the first movie. Did you have to recreate that, or was that the actual?
David did.
Yeah, we did. We remade.
David recreated it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to spoil that.
We found one of the original sets and we scanned it, and then we remodeled it. And we kind of took it apart and we put it differently. This time we had a leather maker, so we separated the pieces so it. It
was. Had it suffered, David? Was it all old? And
half a dozen sets of them, probably more than the original film. Maybe I don't know how many Russell had of that, but
I think we did 8 of everything for Russell all the way through. But we thought they'd all be put in some lovely warehouse somewhere, but they were on the internet within 6 months.
Right.
But that's how we found it.
But would they have survived anyway? The materials, the leather, the foam, the sweat,
yes.
They would survive, yeah?
The one we scanned was in really good condition, to be honest.
And then the Praetorian, did anything survive of those? You're saying they have all beautiful, nice legs, but did the helmets and the things they were?
Yeah, they're all in Spain, they're all in Madrid at Cornet.
But did you see on Babylon, which I love, nobody else seemed to hate?
I love that film, Babylon.
I did too.
It was so us, though. It was so us, that beginning scene. They try to pull that thing off, and oh my God, the sun, the camera's broken, the fucking thing on the big. You got to bring the camera, and then they get it, and he's drunk. Oh shit, he's drunk. It's Russell having a fit, and then he just grabs her and kisses, and behind it is the King of Heaven.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all our costumes. I thought, this is great.
Well, we were very thrilled to see it out being used again.
Yeah, and they look good. They look like,
good, didn't they?
They look great. And they also had that feeling suddenly, which I don't know if you like or not. They felt like they're from the 1930s. It felt like those big swashbuckling things. Okay, the setting and this, that, and the other, but it did feel like that was Hollywood. It was just great.
Hugely underrated film. I just hate.
Yeah,
I
loved it.
don't know why people. It's very funny, but it's also incredibly tragic.
Yeah.
It's really sad, Veronica Lake and all those movie stars who just disappeared. They ended up waiting tables and drinking themselves to death, and but I thought that was us, though. Babylon, that's us. I gotta get the thing, and the sun's setting, and hurry up, and the horses, and what the fuck?
That sequence is so good. It's just so
so brilliant.
That horse is slow. Shoot that fucking horse. Get another horse.
The extra who gets killed, and trying to get the film stopped. It's fantastic.
And then that was Hollywood at its, before the haze and all that came in and shut it all down.
Yeah.
Do what you like,
Yeah. No, it was that was a great film. Well, you guys, I'll let you go, but I want to thank you. It was so great. And John, I did go back before we did this interview, and I went and watched all your music videos that you worked on.
All right.
And Heart-Shaped Box, Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box holds up, man.
Yeah, I know. That's a very that was about my last one.
It was great.
A month later, he exited, and
Yeah.
I just thought I've got to get into drama. I can't. I don't know how many music videos I shot. Was it 300? I don't know, and then Courtney's bass player, she overdosed, and I said I'm out. I just can't. And she was at the hotel the night that he blew his. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a whole load of stories there, and I loved those bands. But also, you were getting too old. You were, too old to shoot music videos. You weren't,
No, it was good stuff. And I'm a big fan. I own Plunkett McLean,
Yeah. Oh, good.
So, big fan.
Yeah, well, Janty did that.
Yeah.
That's how we met. That's another underrated film that's kind of got a bit of a cult.
Completely underrated.
But it has, it's become a cult movie.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't care.
No, but I mean, Jake, Jake,
great.
he was a bit bitten by that. I wish he'd made, anyway. Another day, another story.
He was cut down, poor Jake. He's not
Yeah,
fair
but I mean,
at all.
no.
Donna Ridley, who does he think he is? They were so unfair.
Working with English producers who have no fucking imagination.
Well, no, exactly.
No cinema culture. That's what Truffaut said. He said, what did he say? He said, the word British and cinema doesn't go together.
I've never heard that. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
no,
Wow.
he was very scathing. Well, the French have a language, the Italians have a language, the Russians do, the Americans do. We don't. We
It's
read
true.
Shakespeare and we woo,
Well,
and they didn't understand it.
I mean, you have the Ealing comedies, and you have you have Bruce Robinson's with Nail and I, which is one of the greatest movies ever made that Americans don't
Yeah,
understand
but he's
at all.
Australian.
Well, there is that.
Is he?
But
The Celts. Anyway, whatever. We can talk about it another time when we all see each other.
well, I will let you go. But this
Yeah,
was a great interview.
cheers.
Thank you so much. The movie is so good. Congratulations, and you've given everybody, the world, a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Thanks.
for
Thank
the
you
holidays.
so much.
I hope you're right.
Thank
I'll
you.
see-
Lots of love.
I'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.